Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Arthur's Roundtable. Really, as usual, thanking you all for participating, listening in, sharing it, and we've been having a lot of fun doing these, and so thank you for paying attention. I've been reading something lately that there's you know well there's a lot that goes on in the world, but most of it's based on attention. Like, if you can get somebody's attention, and they're that is a big success. So thank you for paying attention to our podcast here. So I want to welcome Tim from Down Under. We're really interested to hear what he has to say, and thank you for getting up early, Tim, and sharing with the group your philosophy in life. Let's just start with that, and your origin story and your business. So thank you for doing it, Tim.
Arthur, it's great to be here. I get the sense that you've walked a long and rich life, and it's good sharing space with you, even though it's virtually, and I'm on the other side of the planet. So, really happy to be here. And I'm really glad that the first meeting, because we met maybe 3 hours ago, and it was my 5:30 a.m. So, you're going to get a much better version of Tim Thomas at 8:30 in the morning here down under.
Awesome.
Um,
Yes. So let me just say to the audience and to you, the universe didn't want us to do it then, so we're doing it now.
Exactly. No, as soon as it worked out really well. As soon as because I always prepare at least an hour beforehand so I can have these conversations. Because to me, like the rarest thing on the planet is a true friend, right? And around a true friend, you can just let yourself be yourself, warts and all. Now, I thought, well, I can't be a true friend to everybody, but what is it about that space that makes it so special? And it's what I would only class it as a zero threat environment. Around that person, there's no threat, there's no control of the outcome. You can just be yourself. Everything comes out, and you know that you're held in that space. And I'm like, well, that would be a great thing to offer to others, but it's quite exhausting if it's done wrong. And I did it wrong for many years. I would sort of give of myself and not of my abundance. So what I've learned right now is if I invest in myself first and I'm in an abundant state, then I can connect with others, openly, generously, and they can love me, hate me, tell me to F off. It really doesn't matter. So when we pivoted at 5:30 a.m. my time, I had to get up at 4:30, get everything ready for myself, and got in the ice bath, did my breath work. So when that pivot happened, when that choice happened, I could then choose powerfully. So as soon as we couldn't do it at 5:30 a.m., I went to the gym, did a big workout, got the cleared the blockages out of my body so I could connect with, what is important. So again, much better version of Tim now that I've connected to myself. And so that's basically what I've been doing in a nutshell for the last decade, is working with veterans that are in extreme levels of fatigue and isolation, and they're in what's called fight or flight, or the part of the brain that's the amygdala. It's fast but dumb, and it's really exhausting. There's times and places to use it, like when you have to get in that zone and make crap stuff happen exactly when it's supposed to be happening. It's good to be there, but if you can't go into your prefrontal cortex, if you can't go into your executive function, that's where people get stuck. Because if you're the only one who's got your back, you can't drop your guard for a second. So going to sleep at night is a really hard thing, because the nervous system says if we drop our guard for a second, if I let go of this particular responsibility, then something bad's going to happen. It's going to be my fault. So for the past decade, I've had great success in shifting people's states. So these veterans that were extremely fatigued, all these resources were getting poured into them, and none of it was being effective because they were stuck in a sense of isolation and fatigue. So simply shifting the fatigue and shifting the isolation that they felt, all of a sudden they went from their amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, their executive function, where they could see it all, be it all, and yeah, I got this. And so with very little resources, we were able to remove the blockages between their fight or flight to their executive function. And then they just knew exactly what to do next. And just to sort of back this up with a bit of some statistics, my lifetime goal was to save 40 veteran lives from suicide. I would have died happy if I achieved that. But that was actually achieved within 12 months because of those two
Awesome.
things. Observing that pain, doesn't matter if it's emotional or physical, it gets you locked in your amygdala. and then the resultant fatigue just blocks it all up. So I I, I noticed it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or civilian or corporate or whatever. It's the isolation people feel when they've had to maintain a level of stress, level of emotional pain, a level of physical pain that then transforms into loneliness and isolation. I'm the only one going through this. No one understands this. And so I've been very successful the last decade in having people go into their executive function, but also how to shift their nervous system into the rest, digest, all is well, I am safe sort of system. And how did I get a system that worked so well? I did all the wrong things.
Yeah. Learn through
Foremost,
doing, right? Yeah. So
and
can
not
I
that
just
I,
ask you a quick question? There's a little delay, so forgive me if I talk over you. Is it true or fair to say that if you're stuck in fight or flight, it's kind of like if you're struggling to pay the bills, it's pretty consuming. Like it saps all your energy, right? So you're so distracted by making sure you can pay the mortgage and the electric bill and so on. Then if you're in fight or flight, it consumes all the resources that you would otherwise use for something else more productive. Is it fair to say that?
yeah, so fight or flight is an ancient wiring system that we all have. We survived through the ages with it. But these days, this fight or flight mistake existential threats for real physical threats. So the idea that that mortgage is a threat or that bill is a threat, and it doesn't matter how much money you have or you don't have, it's the association we have that is a threat. And it's, again, time and a place for everything. But if you're in that zone perpetually, it's very exhausting. And, without getting conspiracy theory, like if you had a group of people that were in fight or flight and were exhausted, who would be more easily manipulated? The ones that are exhausted or the ones that are sleeping well, know their value, know how to improve their value? So even if somebody has a bunch of money and they're passing it down to their kids, the kids are inheriting not just the assets, but the nervous system as well of the parent. So if you and I'll explain this because you don't know you're in fight or flight, it just seems normal, and everyone's doing it, right? But when was the last time you laughed for no reason out loud? Okay, there's certain things that just drop off without you noticing it. When's the last time you saw something so beautiful that just stopped you in your tracks?
Yeah, if you're not experiencing that, then you're being consumed by the fight or flight, for example, right?
And there is a time to be hyper focused. There is a time to get out there, kick ass, take names, chew bubblegum. But then if you do that too much and you don't know how to regulate back into your rest, digest. So this is where people kind of get stuck. There's the ones that are overperforming and cooking themselves, and they look at the people that are underperforming that aren't really trying. Why would I want to do that? And the people that
Yeah.
are sort of, maybe too relaxed, look at the people that are overperforming and say, look, they got all that stuff and they're not enjoying it. Look, the family's terrible, blah, blah, blah. So to me, there's a shift between those 2 points that can happen. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but when I'm talking to people, especially my corporates, I'll talk about the performance pyramid and how you can perform over, a lifespan, live longer, perform higher, but know how to shift, from the top, kicking ass, taking names, to the bottom, rest, digest, because they look completely different. And the thing that people don't understand, and I know I'm saying a lot here, but in Afghanistan, we used to attack the enemy's center of gravity. All right. So if you're in war, you would find the enemy's center of gravity, and if you could attack it, you would off center them, and essentially you could make them do whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah,
And
destabilize them.
yeah, and one of the greatest destabilizers was attacking their sleep. We didn't know about the science of sleep, but we knew if we could take it out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. And when I come back to my, wonderful Western world, I noticed our center of gravity as humans is our sense of self-worth. And if you can attack someone's sense of self-worth, then you can really destabilize them, right? And so there's no problem going out there, getting the money, getting the car, getting the relationship. But if you've attached your sense of self-worth to something outside of your body, that's when we tend to lock into fight or flight. And it's really hard to relax and down regulate, because if I relax and down regulate, if I do nothing, well, maybe I am nothing. And that's sort of the greatest hinge people get stuck with. To shift into relax, rest, digest, this is where the pharmaceutical industry, the drug industry make a lot of money to help down regulate, because I need something, because if I'm not doing something, maybe I'm worth nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm wondering if it's true that some people naturally have that ability more than others to reset, to rest and digest, go into flight or fight when it needs to get done, and then pull back, and then, or do you have to intentionally get to that point with tools, for example?
Well, you have to understand that you don't know how strong the current is until you try and start swimming against it. So right now, there's a cultural acceptance of working extra hard and ignoring sleep. And that's a very easy thing to say, but it's the soil from which everything grows, right? And if that's suffering, then, the trunk's suffering, the leaves are suffering, the fruit on the trees. And this is where people kind of get stuck, because the world we currently live in is trying to wring the life out of daytime hours. And that's what I was doing. When I was in the special forces, I couldn't have worked any harder. There was all sorts of stuff going on. And the biggest shift for me was discovering how to improve sleep naturally. And
Without pharmaceuticals, you mean,
no,
for
without, well,
example?
yeah, this was in the dirt of Afghanistan, 2009.
Uh,
Obviously, they train us to go without sleep. They train us to be, some of the world's toughest humans, right? But I learned that performance without recovery becomes a liability. And for people listening, this isn't just limited to soldiers. This is, corporates, board members, family members. So it wasn't just fatigue. It was, you lose your mates over there.
yeah.
You see things most people would never see. So there's a whole other level of fatigue. And I'm like, man, I'm going to die in this place. I've only got like 2 cents worth of energy. What's the point? And then I'm like,
Wow, that's rough.
well, I was a pretty thick-skinned individual. I had to go over there, get my ass kicked that hard to realize this. Tim, if you've only got 2 cents worth of energy, you better invest that wisely. Now, with nobody showing me this, Arthur, you never got anything that you'd call quality sleep when you're outside the wire fighting bad guys. But every now and then you'd get horizontal in the dirt. And normally you'd try and sleep as much as you could, as soon as you could. But instead of doing that with that 2 cents worth of energy, I looked at my left thumb. No one taught me this. This has just came to me. And it was like something took over, because I was beyond fatigue, not even thinking straight. And I pictured a little hole in the tip of my left thumb, and I just sucked air through my nose, pretending it was coming through my thumb. And I'm like feeling this thing going down my thumb. And eventually my thumb turns into white light. In my mind's eye, my thumb turns into white light. I'm like, that feels really good. And then I pull it through my pointer finger, and then I fall asleep. And then that 2 cents worth of energy turns into $2. I'm like, that's interesting. Energy is like money. How you invest it is how you get it back. Everyone can manage their, assets and portfolios, but how are we managing our energy portfolio? So I encourage everybody to create their energy portfolio, because to me, destiny isn't like a mystical thing. It's literally like a spreadsheet. You have things in your life, because Arthur, you have a unique energy signature, right? So you've got something that you might invest $100 into. It might be a little difficult, uncomfortable, or hard, and it might cost you $100, but then you get $10,000 back, energetically speaking. So for all my clients, the goal for all of my clients is to find out their individual energy signature and make them energetic millionaires, because that's the part your teammates are looking at. That's the part your kids are embodying. And my kids aren't going to do what I tell them necessarily, but they're going to do what I do.
Right. They watch what
So,
you do, they don't listen to what you say, right?
so what I learned was how your own body and improving simple sleep then improves everything else, because it didn't just stop there. What happens with energy is it's never static. It's always connecting to more things and more things. And I noticed as my energy level went up, when it was low, I'm like, screw everybody. I just got to get through the day. And if I had alcohol, I'd be drinking it. But as I improved the quality of my sleep, my days were still the same. They're still tough, but I had more energy capital. And eventually I got to a point where I'm good. And I started being aware of what's outside of me. I started being aware of my team. And and I was like, well, it doesn't matter if I'm good. If my team's cooked, I'm cooked. So what can I
Yeah,
do?
right.
And who did I want around me when good times turn bad? I had to go to Afghanistan to realize that, but I hope people listening can sort of see the importance of having those connections because, the hard times are coming and who did we want around us? And so I then started pouring into my teammates the best way I could. That was sort of the origin story about me discovering about, high performance without proper recovery just made me a liability. You can't sort of out alpha your own biology.
Totally makes sense to me. Can we go back to the part where you said you looked at your thumb and there was a hole in the light? Was that like a serendipitous, accidental thing, or do you take that as the divine giving you a signal in any way that made sense so you could go down this path and realize that you needed to recharge or do whatever you had to do to arguably rest and recover and then be better for yourself and everybody else? I mean, was it some divine signal?
Good question, Arthur. I see it as two things. One, I was fatigued past conscious thought. And I do believe the strength of our ancestors didn't disappear. It's still inside of us, right? But the physical world we live in is so under demanding, we don't actually get to discover their power because their power only shows up when we really need it, right? And so I was in a space where I was I was out of my own way. I was that fatigued. And the other thing that contributed to that was the only thing we did about breathing in the military was when you take a sight picture, you take a deep breath in, let it out slowly, and then you take up the first trigger pressure. But that's on my dominant hand. So it was my left hand. And they didn't show me, what I did. So I just think there was some kind of ancient, you could call it, all right, look, without tangenting too much into the spiritual realm, if someone was to look at Arthur, do you think they could see everything that is Arthur just by looking at him?
No, of course not.
Of course not, right? There is a whole side of you that is completely unseen. And it's bloody amazing. And so there's a bunch of stuff about us humans that is unseen. Some people call it spiritual. I mean, if there's a spiritual event, you usually don't understand it because it's usually beyond your own understanding. And it's in my experience of that, it's to have you affect something so much greater than yourself. And it normally kicks your ass 6 ways from Sundays. It's not always a pleasant, comfortable experience. But in that occasion, there was something unseen that came to the surface that had me do that. And then literally everything changed. And
I just want to let you know I'm not looking for you to explain it because there's things that we have seen or know or feel that are inexplicable. I was just wondering how you perceived that, right? And it actually doesn't matter what it was as long as it worked, right?
well, okay, well here's my spiritual view. I do believe that I have a faith that tells me when I get to the other side, whatever's there is going to say, well, here's your life as you saw it, right? And through your own eyes. Well, here's your life as you didn't see it. You don't just see a one action, second action. You'll see how that one action then sort of created this family tree of actions either side of you. So I believe in this life, the compass, we can't see that, but we are given a compass. The things that we feel is our duty, the things that we feel called to do, and we're doing them in a way that brings, more connection to the humans around us, peace within ourselves and others, joy, seeing beautiful things, feeling like you're connected to others, connected to nature. Those are the things, because you can feel called to do a certain thing, which I was, right? But I was doing it in such a way where I was depleting my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm talking about what I call the performance pyramid, At the top is all the things you want to achieve in the external world. Then at the bottom is your rest, recovery, and healing art forms. These are the things that make you the energetic millionaire to then apply yourself from your executive function to the external world. And we can still perform as we age. We just need to widen the base of that and get more specific. Because like I said, we're all individual energy signatures, and most people sort of just go, well, how can I apply myself out here? They're not actually going back and go, well, let's get some energy capital so we can be in our executive function. So when we apply ourselves, we're seeing, far beyond what is being achieved in the external world.
Totally makes sense. Would you argue that it's pretty accepted that if you eat well, exercise, move, and even though people say get good rest, many don't intentionally do that. They just sleep as long as they can to get up and go do it all over again, right? There's no real intention to make sure that it's quality sleep necessarily. And I don't have any facts to back that up, but that's what it seems. Would you say that, just like you have to get up and go to the gym, there's intention and execution, right? So you have to do it. And once you do it, you realize, holy crap, I feel a lot better and I have more energy. And by the way, I need to recover from that, right? If you're paying attention, and I probably will sleep better, and I probably won't drink as much alcohol. And I mean, all this stuff's connected, right? So what I'm getting at is, it seems to me like, aside from I'm going to sleep as long as I can and get up and do what I have to do probably before I'm rested, but that's part of life. Is there a formula to learn and build that muscle, to widen that base and become the multimillionaire asset owner of the sleep asset? Sorry to convolute all that, but I'm
No.
just trying to.
I can see what you're saying. And what you're trying to say is what a lot of people say. And people essentially, they all know what they're supposed to do, right? But people are so busy. It's like the bucket is filled with gravel and it's hard, and we know the big rocks are supposed to go in there, but my life is so full anyway. How do I jam another thing in? And if they do jam a few things in, I'll do a 12-week challenge, because they can tell ourselves, I can put up with this for 12 weeks, and then I say, oh yes, I've done something good this year, and then I can do the bad stuff after that. So what we have to understand is people are already busy enough. How can we give them a 2-cent investment that gives them $2 back, and they go, that felt good, more please? So meeting them where they are, because where often people want to be, they want to be fit, they want to do this, they want to do that, they want to do this. Think of that like the energetic superhighway, and we have to build an on-ramp, meet them where they are, to build an easy on-ramp. Oh, that was an easy win. That was an easy win. That was an easy win. And
Incremental wins.
I will give you the absolute gold here, Arthur. Your state, my state, is greatly impacted by 2 golden 5-minute periods every 24 hours. 5 minutes going to sleep and the 5 minutes waking up. Most people unconsciously poison those. They're poisoning the soil going to sleep. They're poisoning the first 5 minutes of their day. The racing thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, like, oh, another day. When they wake up, what's the point? My body's kind of doing this and that. And if we can give them an easy win in those 2 5-minute periods, that's where I'd be starting. Forget about all this. People don't want 6 things to have to do and remember because their life's busy enough. You can just, like I said, that's how I turned everything around. I was a high-performing dude. I couldn't have gotten any higher in my particular specialty. But if I simply worked on those 2 5-minute windows, if I won the first 5 minutes of the day, I won the day. If I went to sleep connected to my breath, my REM cycles were deeper. My anti-inflammation was better. Presence of oxygen, absence of disease. There's a myriad of health benefits, and Google them if you want, but just the idea is to give people an easy win and then give them that energy capital. So with energy capital, they can invest and you probably need to make 10 investments in yourself before you find one that, oh, that just gave me $10,000 back and only cost me 100. So what most people do is they treat their own energy like it's an endless supply, and they end up broke. And most people in this world are living in the Western world of fatigue, where sleep when you're dead, grind away. The Dalai Lama says it well. Western man is strange. He spends all his health getting money, then he spends all his money trying to get his health back.
Right, right.
I'm more performance based. I'm here to achieve our intention in this world. But if we lose the ability, like I did, to shift it down, go to the bottom of the pyramid, the rest, digest, and healing art forms, then we start saying things like, if we don't do that, we start saying things like, oh, you're over the hill at 30, you're over the hill at 50, you're definitely over the hill at 60. If you knew that every day you could wake up like an energetic millionaire, you know, it's a very different experience walking down the street with $1 million in the back pocket than if you got 2 cents in your back pocket. Because when people are energy low, super defensive, everything's a threat because I've only got 2 cents left, and everyone gets taken from. That's a fact, right? But if you can be in touch with something, if you got dialed into your own energy signature, and you knew that if I did this, $100 there, $10,000 back, $100 there, 50,000, and you stack that unique to you in the mornings, you're in your executive function all of that day. And what no one tells you is your energy and this executive function has a 24 to 36 hour function. So every day the wise person knows if you don't choose to invest in yourself and create that bit more energy, the choices get made for you. So if I don't wake up, if I don't win the first 5 minutes of the day, I've got all these intrusive thoughts. What's the point? I'm an angry dude when I'm not in my executive function. I'm reactive. What are you looking at? And all the things from the past that have pissed me off. And that's wrong. And that's wrong. And driving through traffic, forget about it, right?
All right. So it
So
sounds to me like it's not even close to a zero-sum game. It's actually a wide open game. Like you don't have to steal from something else to get this big deposit.
good point. Because one of the prime experiences of when people are in their amygdala and their fight or flight, it's like they're standing around a table. There's only one cake, and everyone's arguing about who gets the cake and who gets more. And you've got more than me, and I've got to trick that person. But when you're in executive function, you're like, you know what? I can make as much cake as I want, and whoever wants to come and learn how to make their own cakes, come with me. I'm raising a flag right now. So that's the idea, and this is why I don't listen to mainstream media, because I believe that's a deliberate shift from your executive function into your amygdala, where you're actually seeing resources as scarce, and then that's exhausting. And what does exhausted people do? We buy more crap than we're supposed to. We believe things we shouldn't. We're in this sort of reactive state, and we're paralyzed and polarized.
Yeah, and there was a book I read a few years ago about explaining why videos go viral. Like, what's the virality? How's that happen? And it was largely based on the human nature for fight or flight. It's like, I got to have that because out of fear, if I don't have that, something else is going to happen. Doing a bad job at explaining it, but it basically was back to the fight or flight thing as a function of mainstream media or the news or the advertisements or all that. I want to get into how you execute on those gold that you gave us the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. But I'm also super curious if you don't mind sharing real briefly or not. It's up to you. When you started doing this while you were in Afghanistan, what happened to you? And then how did that spread to your team and colleagues and so forth? Because we all know that it's a band of brothers, right? Everybody knows that if you're not performing, you put everybody else at risk, right? This is not new theory, right? So what can you talk a little bit about what happened once you realized?
So I've only ever heard two audible whispers in my life. One of them was in Afghanistan, and it could have been, it could have been all sorts of things: fatigue, stress. But when I started coming good, and I'm like, my team needs help. I was a private. I was paid to do what everyone else tells me to do. So what could I do? you know what? I do have a fresh supply of coffee and a little coffee maker and some thermoses. I could make people coffee, right? But here's the thing, special forces are a very special dynamic, Arthur. They're all alpha males, and not all of them are secure, right? And if you do an active servanthood to an unasked active servanthood to an alpha insecure male, then you're his servant. And I knew that if I did that, I'd be called the brew bitch, right? And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I've worked too hard to be here. Someone's getting politely knocked out. And then I heard this whisper, and it said, take the ego out of it.
Yeah.
Take the ego out of it. And I'm like, but here's what happened. When I fully dropped my ego, it's like it became a bridge to everywhere I wanted to get to. Like, what would life be like if you didn't care about what anyone thought of you? Huh. Like freedom? Hello? Like, what the hell was I over there fighting for? Here I am, a slave to my own ego, and I'm fighting for freedom. How ironic. It was kind of a bit of dark humor there, right? And so what did I do? I brought coffee to people. I got called the brew bitch. But the advantage of living so close to people is you can see how they're interacting. So before I drop the coffee off, they're arguing at each other. Like when alpha males aren't fighting somebody, they're usually fighting each other, right? I drop the
Or
coffee off.
talking shit, right? Or,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
And I step back and I observe. They pour out the coffee, they take a sip, and when they realize it's really good coffee, they immediately take another sip. Like, oh, that's good, right? And then everything just stops. The arguing stops. You see these big, broad shoulders relaxing. They look up at the horizon and you see them take this deep breath. And that's interesting. Breath to regulate their nervous system. And soon enough, the officers started seeing this coffee, and then they asked for coffee too. And then all of a sudden, all ranks started sitting together, and they weren't in a orders meeting where the high ranking was doing this. They were just all around having coffee, and there was more achieved in those few moments of, there was no armor between people, because normally in an orders meeting, the officer's saying this and the sergeants are saying that, and there's this, F you kind of attitude. We're not going to be, we know what we're doing. There was this dialogue and conversation, these connections that were happening. And I wasn't physically there because I was just a private. I'm not in that circle, right? But then I'm like, I'm not there. I'm not saying anything, but I'm the most powerful person in the room.
Yeah. You
And that's when it
catalyze the
hit me.
camaraderie, right? That's funny.
And that's when it hit me that I saw the difference between, I'd confused servitude with servanthood.
Yeah.
And that was like a massive shit. Okay, now I get it. Take the ego out. That's what the whisper was for. Because, who did I want around me when good times turn bad? Do I want disconnected, fatigued people, or do I want rested and connected? And I just dropped my ego, found a way to make it happen. And I had to go to that environment to have the idea of looking after those around me pushed into my DNA.
Yeah, totally makes sense. We can talk about the other whisper another time, maybe. So can you give us a peek behind the curtain a little bit about what to do in the first 5 and the last 5?
Yeah, sure. So I don't want to tangent, but everything I do, Arthur, is I run off 3 Ps. Military love their acronyms, and I call it my P test, right? It's a bit funny. It's got to be powerful. It's got to be positive, but the last one's most important. It's got to be permanent. All right. So there's plenty of powerful and positive stuff out there, but how permanent is it? A week later, what has changed? A month later, what has changed? So I said, if I really care about somebody, I have to care about permanency. Do they have access the next week, the next day, the next year? And if it's going to be permanent, it can't be about me. I've got to give people access to something that is powerful and positive, and they can access it in their own time. And so I went out with this knowledge about helping people sleep better with breath, and I was getting great results. But then this Louis Colonel sent me an email saying, I had guys come to me saying that was the first good night's sleep in 5 years that they had. But what he said next had me drop out of public life for about 2 years, Arthur. He said, it was good when you were there, but what have you got when you're not there? And I'm like, shit, I've just failed my P test. I'm not permanent. So I withdrew from public life, funded all this myself, tens of thousands of dollars to create breath work in bed. And it's the genius is the simpleness of it. Okay. You just tell it when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up, and then it just falls out of your phone automatically. Because, you know, when you're tired, you don't want to have to remember 6 things. You just want, I want to Uber Eats this stuff in, boom, boom, and then you can access that. So I made breathwork in bed at my attempt at being permanent. And there is a particular kind of breathwork that will turn your bed into a cloud, create healing through your system, and have you REM sleep a whole lot deeper. And look, the high tech thing isn't breathwork in bed; it's your lungs. But to get the medicinal dose of breathing, in my experience, it does help if it's guided, right? Just to have that little thing to breathe in, breathe out. Otherwise, it's easy to lose track. And then in the morning, there's a kind of breath work to remove all that stuck energy because you've been still for 8 hours. There's a particular way to move your body, points that you can massage to make you feel like, wow, I feel pretty amazing right now, and my feet are swinging over the edge of the bed. I've won the first 5 minutes of the day. So that's the easy win that my company gives people, where the advice these days is, oh, do this and do that and do this. And I'm like, no, let's start small. Let's start in your bed. And these very easy things that you can do with your own lungs is going to create a massive, massive difference to your state.
So would you say, I'm just going to use me for example. I get up and I'm usually energized and ready to go, right? I'm not, because I work out 5 days a week. I eat well, you know, throughout my life, I've done a lot of drinking and smoking, but you know, as I age, the working out is helped a lot with making sure that I'm in pretty good shape and feel good. Feeling good obviously is important. So do you, and there are people that just want to be optimal performers, and so they'll do anything, even if they're in good shape and feel good when they get up in the morning. Is it more apparent the result of those first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes, or the last 5 minutes and then the first 5 minutes, if you're already in a fight or flight or distress state? Is the delta between how you feel before you use this and after you feel use this significantly bigger if you're struggling with a good night's sleep, for example?
I will say this. I've had insomniacs of 30 plus years come to me. I've prescribed simple breath work, checked in 8 days later. And they're like, Tim, the only time I woke up was when the dog barked. And that guy was and he just thought it was normal because he thought it was normal, right? That guy, his name's Chris Thompson. He actually became my business partner when he had that experience. But it's not uncommon. And the people that are high performers, as much as they can, you know, biohack themselves, for them, they're very body sensitive. So any slight difference, they really notice. So if they're not doing breath work going to sleep, and if they're not having that first 5 minutes, then that would make quite a difference.
Yeah, it's a very good answer. So is it really that, I mean, oversimplifying it, is it just, you know, there's a lot of people on this call that have done breath work on some level in yoga or whatever, on a retreat or at an ashram or something. Is it, can you give us an example of what it looks like or the type of process? I mean, you don't have to do it. I'm just wondering, is it much different than what we've experienced in breath work in the past?
Okay, so the difference here is the ease of access people have to their own lungs. All right. So when you do one workout, that's good, right? But if you do 1,000, it compounds.
Huge difference.
So the huge difference comes in when people are doing it regularly. They're doing it at least twice every 24 hours because it's just falling out of their phone. They're pressing a button and they're doing it without even thinking about it, because when you're going to sleep, you don't want to have to hold stuff. Boom, boom, right? So this is the thing. It compounds over time. But look, Arthur, the exciting thing about this isn't, for me, isn't the good night's sleep in and of itself. Remember, sleep is the soil from which everything grows. And when I look at people, I see these dormant seeds of greatness, dormant seeds of uniqueness. And I can't do what they do, but if I can improve their soil quality, all of a sudden these seeds of uniqueness, like fruit, grows that you've never seen before, and you'd never know it was there in the soil until it actually grows. So that's what gives me my greatest joy, having people flourish in these unique ways. And ultimately, that's, I believe, what we're here to do: bring out that uniqueness into this world and do it generously. Because you know how to, if you knew how to revive yourself, if you knew that every time you lost an arm, you could grow it back, it's a very different space if you just protect, protect, protect. So getting in touch with this
Yeah.
ability to self-renew allows you to be generous, to invest in things that may or not work. And you know yourself, when you're investing, you might have to invest a few times before you find something that actually really gives you the return you're looking for. And so it is in the energetic space. And you're already in the black, sorry, in the red, if you're not sleeping well.
Right.
So like I said, the exciting part about this is how the ease of access to breath work twice a day compounds over time, the quality of the soil improves, and then all of a sudden these dormant seeds go, oh, I can grow now. I've always wanted to do that. There was a whisper in the back of my head, I've always wanted to do that, but now it seems to happen naturally because this is what we're built to do. We're built to flourish.
So sign me up. I mean,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
how to, it's just go ahead and tell us what the process is.
Well,
Go,
look,
go to the website, get the app,
the
and there's
easiest thing,
instruction. Yeah.
easiest thing, just pull out your phone, App Store, Breathwork in bed. You got to put Breathwork, one word, in bed. You can try it for 28 days. All right. Free. I'm not going to, and after that, it only costs like a cup of coffee. But like I said, once you get that little thing under your belt, it's amazing all these other things start happening. And just observe the people that know you the most, ask them. So my challenge to you, Arthur, is do the do it for 28 days, and then we'll have this conversation again.
Did you purposely pick 28 days because that's how long it takes to create a habit?
No, I think one of my developers recommended it. They might have known that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a Malcolm. It's kind of common knowledge, but Malcolm Gladwell came out with that, and it became popular that 28 days is the magic number.
Four lots of seven.
Yeah. So what else should we know? Seems pretty straightforward.
Well, yeah, it is straightforward, but the people that are listening to this show are very aware on how to invest their money and their assets. I invite them to look through the same lens with their own energy and make investments in things. And they're not always comfortable things to do. It could be some form of physical activity that might be a bit uncomfortable initially, but then afterwards you feel amazing. And just know that the energy you create has a shelf life of at the most 36 hours. So every day there's two completely different types of people, and they're both you and they're both me. There's a person that wins the first 5 minutes with their breath, that with that extra energy, they connect to their body, connect to their mind, some sort of physical interaction where your mind and your body feels connected. And often in this state of connection, we want to connect again. Remember how I said energy never is static, it always wants to connect to more. So generosity is something I really encourage people to do. So in fact, on the Breathwork in Bed app, we have the generosity news wall where people can put their acts of generosity. And it doesn't have to cost you anything. It could just be as simple as saying, "Good morning, Arthur," and send that message off.
Hmm.
Um, my favorite one is just hit the voicemail message. Go, "Oh, g'day, Arthur. Thinking of you recently. Just want you to know you're a bloody awesome bloke. Have a good day." And
Yeah,
that's it.
nice.
What is that? 10 seconds? And the impact of that, people don't understand the impact of their actions on others. So to be able to connect to yourself first powerfully, connect to others powerfully, and then you've literally biohacked your system to be in your executive function. That on this day, I'm going to make as much cake as I want. I'm not going to argue about everyone else's. I'm not even going to buy into that story. You know,
Right.
I got this and I got the people around me.
So I have to there's a lot of people, including me from time to time, and it's not about me, but I just turn myself in, going to bed a little early, flip the TV on, watch a little, we enjoy good TV. And then we habitually put the sound of rain when we're ready to crash, right? I mentioned to you, there's a company called Newcom that has really some very scientific recordings that have special scientific backgrounds and noise, and it comforting. And there are many of them that are, it sounds like rain. So we'll either do that or noise in the TV. But there are times when I'll have a bourbon, call it a night, watch a little TV and conk out, right? Is it no different than anything else? You have to just apply discipline if it's important to you.
Look, life is for living. And if in any discipline, when I'm training anyone to create a new habit, I say, give yourself at least one cheat day where you completely go in the other direction and you start understanding that there's a reason why I'm not doing this anymore, but we need to be continually reminded of that. But we're also here to enjoy life in every facet, right? But if you want one thing, if we could drill it down to one thing, it's understanding that our body is light sensitive. So artificial light, looking at the TV, blue light, that tricks your brain to think, stay awake, raise cortisol levels. Now, there is a mechanical way around that. Okay. You can get these kind of blue blocking glasses. All right. I don't sell these, but this is what I use when I'm down regulating my nervous system. Okay. So in my office, because what they're doing in the States right now is they're extending the peak life playing career of athletes by having them work out in natural light, because they're saying that working out in artificial light is like eating cheesecake, because our body is responsive to light. So I have these, again, I don't sell these, but these are, bio lights. So throughout the
Yeah.
day, they change and they don't have any blue light in them. All right.
Cool.
They're about twice as expensive as a normal one, but I have them in my office, and you can change them as you need to, morning, evening, night. But if you want a super awesome hack for your morning routine, when the sun first comes over the horizon, there's a certain frequency of light that if your eyes are naked in front of it, no glasses, no nothing in front of it, it goes through your eyes and hits a part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. All right. That's in charge of our internal clocks, our circadian rhythms. And when that frequency of light goes through our naked eyes into that, all our circadian rhythms sync up. And if you've ever had the experience going to sleep and there's a part of you still running around in your head, they're not synced up to anything else. And before we went on missions in the Special Forces, we'd always get our watches synced up to the second of the commander. Doesn't matter if the commander's wrong, everyone's synced up, makes it right. And if someone was 30 seconds out, that would make a massive impact to the rest of the team. So if you want a excellent self-regulating experience, and I prompt people to do this within the Breathwork in Bed app, going outside, natural light on your skin, natural light through your eyes, and doing some deep breathing in that space. And if the sun's too high to look at, close your eyes and just let that warmth go through your eyeballs, warm your brain up. There's a whole lot of, again, we could talk for hours about how much goodness the sun gives our body, but we are light receptive creatures. If we can control the light or dim the lights in that last couple hours, you'll find your body naturally shifts. And if you have to watch TV, if there's a filter on there, put a filter on, or like I said, you can wear those ones. They cost like $80-100, but those are the options that most people don't know about if you want to set yourself up powerfully for a downshift in your nervous system before sleep.
Is the morning sun, is there a particular time when it hits the horizon that is most effective in the context of what you were saying?
So in what I was saying, the frequency of light is there until the point it becomes uncomfortable to look at. But there's healthy sunlight, and that's called azimuth light. Azimuth light is whenever your shadow is longer than you are. Now, in Australia, we get a lot of sun, and we have to be aware of how much exposure we have when it's directly above us and my shadow is smaller than me. But the funny thing is, when we expose our skin to sunlight early in the morning, it produces this natural sunscreen. A lot of people didn't know that. All these amazing things happen. And again, I could talk a lot about natural light, but put it this way: as much as I can, that's part of my morning routine. Getting my full body in the sun with some breaths, and it's actually the colors of the sunrise start switching on the energy systems to get out and go kick ass outside the cave. And those colors in sunset are in reverse. So it starts producing the melatonin. It starts naturally switching you into your rest and digest. Now, you could go down the pharmacy, buy melatonin, buy all these different things, or we could take a little bit of time, sit in that sunset. Ideally, I do it a lot on my own, but it's great to do it with a loved one. And nature will give you that balance. So that's just, again, I would be happy fulfilling on my intention to give people permanency. Like if all you did was get sun on your skin and take some breaths and get that light through your eyes, I'd be happy with what people walked away with, because that is accessible to everybody.
It is. We have amazing sunrises and sunsets here in the mountains. It's just outrageous. It's clear skies most of the time,
Mm.
which is rare, and we love it. Yeah.
But you were
There's
looking at it through a window, weren't you?
no, I could walk right outside.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, all I'm saying is most people look at that through a window, and unfortunately, the glass does block those frequencies that need to get into your eye socket. So I've personally taken it to an extreme when I heard about how our brains need natural light. I've now actually gotten rid of all my sunglasses. But again, that's just me.
Yeah. Mary's the same way. She read a lot about it, and just it, unless you're driving or something and it's dangerous, there's no point in covering your eyes from the sun, right? Seems to be the case. Wow. Well, like I said, I'm in. Going to give it a try for sure.
Well, how about we catch up again in a month, whether it's on the show or not. I mean, I don't, like I said, permanency here. This is, I never try and hit it and quit it. So regardless of whether this is on the show or not, or just a personal catch up, I would love, because I can. The other thing I like doing is I've observed that if you give someone with a heart of service 1 cup of energy, they naturally turn it into 200. So even if I'm being lazy, it makes a lot of sense to give your energy to those people with a heart of service.
Yeah. Well, I will definitely do it and report back, because based on our discussion, and I don't mean to even make it sound harsh, because it's not, but there's no reason not to do it. I can't think of one, right? And I will take a day and have a bourbon and not do it one night and then keep on doing it. Um, okay with that. So, Tim, thank you for doing this. This has been fascinating. And I think the audience is going to really appreciate this. And so I appreciate you sharing it with everybody.
Arthur, I like your relaxed mannerisms and your kind of stoic nature. It made it very easy for me to share openly.
Well, thank you for saying that. We have no pretense here. We're just having conversations. So that's one of the reasons why we really like doing these, is because we have no agenda, just to share information with people. That's it.
Doing life together, my friend.
Yes, sir. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being there. Tim, hang on a second. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for dialing into the show.